Denver 7 News starts right now.
This is the man arrested for shooting and killing an RTD transit security officer. And tonight we know the Denver Muslim community warned federal authorities that man, 37-year-old Joshua Cummings, was very radicalized when he visited a Denver area mosque. We have also learned there will be heightened security Monday for the funeral of 56-year-old Scott Von Lincoln.
Denver 7 has team coverage for you tonight. Right now, Mark Stewart is at the shooting scene near Union Station, uncovering more about those troubles Cummings had at a Denver mosque. And Sally Mamdou is in Loveland tonight talking with those who knew Von Lincoln, where more than 3,000 people are expected at his funeral. We're
going to start with investigator Ryan Luby. Ryan is live in Pampa, Texas. That's where Cummings is from. And Ryan, some of that town wanted him out, where they had supported him for a very long time.
They did support him for a very long time because this is largely a very accepting town. It is fairly diverse. You can kind of see that here in downtown Pampa, to be perfectly honest with you. They understood, a lot of folks here, that Joshua Cummings was simply a believer of a different faith. Those we spoke with here were fine with that. But then some of his social media postings, as you saw, got them very concerned. And because of some of the tension that built up because of those postings, a local church welcomed Josh into their congregation during a Sunday service back in July. They let him speak, as you saw in our 5 o'clock newscast, where he explained how his family was the first Muslim family here. Well, today, the pastor's wife at that church said Josh had received a few death threats because of how increasingly extreme they say he was becoming at the time. And just before he left town late last summer, she said he made a comment that had her alarmed.
The death threats on his family's life had become known to the Muslim community globally.
Now, I invite you to join us during our 10 o'clock newscast tonight. You're also going to hear from two Kenpo karate instructors here in Pampa who say they had a real fear of Joshua Cummings for several months last year, to the point where they were literally packing heat and standing guard. We'll explain why. For now, we're live in Pampa, Texas. I'm Ryan Luby. Denver 7 Investigates.
Thank you, Ryan. Now our team coverage continues with Denver 7's Mark Stewart. And Mark, local Muslims warned federal authorities that Cummings was radicalized when he visited a Denver mosque.
Indeed, and there is a lot of attention right now here at the crime scene in Joshua Cummings' alleged role here in this shooting. However, he had caught the attention of federal authorities long before the shooting here. He attended at least one time a visit at a local mosque, and based off of that initial visit, local Muslim leaders became very concerned about his behavior, and they reached out to the Department of Homeland Security. We want to show you a letter that leaders of the mosque sent to the feds. First, it describes their concerns that Cummings was perhaps very radicalized. That is their words in the letter. He also made references to killing his entire community. Again, all of this happening weeks ago in late December. Immediately, the feds responded and talked to members of the mosque, conducting interviews. Members of the mosque were paying attention. Not only did they alert the feds, but they took pictures, even a video of Cummings.
Mosques are places of peace. They're places of worship and introspection. And when somebody brings violence to a mosque, whether it be verbal or otherwise, it will be noticed, and it was.
Members of the mosque are asking us not to name its title, its location. There's a lot of concern about their safety and security. In the meantime, though, the feds insist they pass this warning down to authorities along the chain. For now, we are live in downtown Denver. Mark Stewart, Denver 7.
And this morning, police escorted the body of Scott Von Lincoln from Denver to Loveland, where his funeral will be Monday. The funeral will be at the Res Church in Loveland, where Von Lincoln was a pastor. And Denver 7 Sally Mamdou has more tonight, as that church is expecting an overwhelming turnout for the funeral.
In the past, Scott Von Lincoln held a revival service right here in this auditorium here, where his memorial service will take place on Monday. This area is expected to be filled with so many people impacted by Scott's legacy that he left behind. A man of God.
He loved the Lord more than life.
And Res Church pastor Pecky Salgado, who met Scott Von Lincoln at one of the services, says Scott dedicated most of his life to the service of God. Scott served as a senior pastor at Valley Assembly of God in Loveland and was a volunteer chaplain at the Loveland Police Department, where he met Harvey Rugzegger during the chaplain meetings.
I think he was a quiet guy, but cared for people, and that's why he was a chaplain.
A hard-working man who worked as a security officer and part-time at Home Depot. But those that knew him say he didn't just love God and work, but he was a true family man. It's what he often preached.
A lot of his ministry was to focus on families.
An impactful life that will be remembered one more time on Monday.
We had an escort service all the way from Denver this morning to the funeral home here in Loveland, and the co-workers were so grieved, and there wasn't enough they could do or say. They were lost for words.
The service will take place at 10:30 in the morning. For now, we're in Loveland. Sally Mamdouh, Denver 7.
And we will stay on top of every development of this story on air and online at thedenverchannel.com. And we also have a link to a memorial fund for the Von Lincoln family on our website.